So thank you, everyone. We're going to talk about the PHP RFC process here. My name is Larry Garfield. If you want to make fun of me during the session on Mastodon, that's where you do so. I generally encourage it. Remember, to tag PHPverse. I've been a part of the PHP community for 20 years. I've been writing PHP for 27 years. I've been around a number of projects: Drupal, Typo3, Symfony. Written some books, and currently available on the job market. So if you're like a staff engineer with this kind of background, let's talk. As for PHP, well, PHP, as we know, is always advancing. Every November, we get a fun new release that brings us something cool. And why should you care other than in November? I mean, why should you pay attention? And by care, in this case, I mean get involved. Why should you be involved in PHP? For one thing, you can see what's coming. Even if you are just reading things and not actually saying anything, you can see how the sausage gets made and what new features are coming before they land. So you can get a sense of, oh, in a year, these are the kind of functionality we'll be able to leverage. You can also get involved and help influence it. Even if you're not writing your own RFCs, we want feedback from as many people as possible. Is this would you actually use this? Is this a good idea? Was this thing going to break your code? The more we know that early, the better. And you can change the future. This is a programming language that runs the internet. There are millions of people using it. And if you contribute to it in some way, you're contributing to helping millions of people. That's kind of cool. So how do you get involved? Step one for getting involved in PHP internals is you have to join the mailing list. And I'm sure someone at this point is going to freak out and start talking about how terrible mailing lists are and that, OMG, it's such ancient technology, and can it? It's stable and reliable technology. Mailing lists are not controlled by any major corporation. We run our own mailing list server. You can use any mail client you want. Literally everyone in the world either has or can easily get an email address. We're not the only project that still runs by mailing list. There are many other major projects in open source and web that work that way. So if you want to do nothing else, you can read the entire history of the mailing list going back to the dawn of time on the NewsWeb website. So the easiest way to join, send an email to internals+subscribe@list.php.net, and you're done. There's no step two. If you're more of a GUI person, you can go to the website and there's a form you can just put your email address in and say subscribe. Nice and easy. Once you are there, please play nice. It's nothing really major. The list does not have reply all by default. So if your mail client has a reply list feature, use that. Otherwise, reply all. Otherwise, your messages just go to the person who sent the email. Occasionally, that becomes an issue, but usually people are good about that. Bottom post, it actually makes it a lot easier to just trim out irrelevant parts of something and respond at the bottom, not what most mail clients do and say put it at the top and you have a gigantic history of everything and everyone's giant signatures. Don't do that. No HTML. If you need to format something, you can use Markdown. It doesn't actually get rendered, but Markdown is human readable, so cool. And just generally don't be a jerk. The PHP internals has a reputation for being mean and nasty. That reputation is much like the reputation of PHP itself. A lot more accurate 20 years ago than it is now. So it's actually pretty nice these days. There's tense discussions, but it's not personal discussions. So go with that. If you want to see what's going on, just look at wiki.php.net/RFC. That's a list of all RFCs that are currently in voting, in active discussion, that people are working on and haven't made public yet, and everything that has passed in the past. So if you just want to see, hey, why did this weird piece of enums work the way it did? Why do property hooks do this thing? Go back to the RFC. There's a long discussion often of, here's why we did what we did, and here's all the nitty-gritty details you don't think about but are important. So that's a great resource just for just knowing what the language is doing today. So how do we actually make an RFC? First, have an idea. That's kind of an important first step. Then talk about it. Then implement it. Discuss it some more. We love discussion in PHP. Then there's a vote. And if all goes well, woot! So let's go through that in a bit more detail. Step 1, have an idea. Proposals for PHP internals need to solve real problems. So there has to be some good case to make for this thing is valuable to 1 million people using PHP, or a significant subset of them. So it's not something that's going to be a niche value for just this one company or just this one project. It's something that's going to be useful for a lot of people, even if it's coming from one company or project. And cannot reasonably be done in user space. The word reasonably here is doing a lot of lifting. For example, stir starts with function. Trivial to do in user space, but the value of having it built in and guaranteed to be there without having to install an extra composer package was valuable enough to say, hey, that's worth doing. Syntax changes have to be in the language, obviously. A lot of other, hey, this function or this extra set of classes, okay, why should that be in the engine? Why should that be in internals rather than being something you download with Composer? You have to make that case. And everything that's passed has managed to make that case, but you need to make that case. Good features are targeted, specific, and precise. That doesn't mean that they have to be small. Many RFCs are very, very large and complicated, but that is because the problem space they're tackling is complicated. But they're still trying to tackle one problem space at a time. So once you have an idea, go ahead and discuss it. You send a message to the mailing list and just say, apparently this laptop is in dark mode, cool. To internals at list.php.net, say, proposal, I want to add this functionality, describe it. That description could be, 2 sentences. It could be several pages worth. Depends on what you're proposing. You haven't done any actual work yet. You're just saying, hey, here's an idea I have. Here's how it would work. Does anyone care? Would anyone want this? But you need to make the case for why it's valuable. If the feedback you get is largely negative, then move on. I mean, not every feature is going to work. Not every idea is a great idea. That's okay. Don't take it personally. I've certainly had ideas shot down at this stage. Sometimes you can come back in a few years, sometimes not. But better to get that out now than after you've done all the code. If, however, you get positive feedback on the idea, well, now it's time to actually implement it. Go you. So just make a pull request against the PHP SRC repository. Fair warning, it is not in PHP, it is written in C. It is written in somewhat old C, I would argue somewhat ugly C. I like to joke that PHP is not written in C, it's written in a custom macro language that is itself written in C. Some of the other people in this room get upset with me when I say that, but I'm only half joking when I say that. It's point being, there is a learning curve to contributing to internals in code, and it is surmountable. People have done it. Some of the leading maintainers right now are only a few years into it, so it absolutely is achievable. It doesn't have to be perfect. The goal at this point is to find edge cases. And very often when working on an RFC with Ilya or with Arno, who I frequently collaborate with, we'll try implementing something and realize, oh, that design idea just doesn't work in practice, so we need to change the design. That's the kind of thing you're trying to find at this stage. Not making it perfect, but making it feature complete. I recommend partnering with someone if you're new. I'll be honest, of all the RFCs you listed off, I wrote the code for one of them. All the others were written by either Ilya or Arno. And that's a great way to, A, validate your idea, but also get mentorship, get someone to help out with it. I do very much recommend partnering with people where you can. Technically, the implementation is optional. You can submit an RFC without it. Please don't. There are people that will vote against an RFC if it has no implementation because you haven't been able to find those edge cases where, oh, we have to change something. And also, don't assume that just because an RFC is proposed or passed that someone else is going to do it for you. As the RFC author, You're responsible for making sure the work gets done to complete it. If something passes and no one else picks it up, it doesn't happen. Now that you have your code ready, you can sign up on the wiki. You just go to wiki.php.net, sign up, it's free, and then post on the mailing list saying, hey, I want RFC access so that I can go make an RFC. And someone will usually approve that within a day. It's very quick. Then you go write the RFC. It's on a wiki, so you edit it. There's instructions built in. There's a template you can follow. It was recently updated. You don't have to follow it precisely, but you should follow it more or less. There's chunks there that are very important to include, including like we have a link to the patch up here at the top. You have your name, or the people involved, brief introduction, and so on. A lot of the information in the RFC will get reused verbatim in docs later on. So your audience is both end users who are like, okay, how would I use this thing? And implementers, okay, how does this thing work? And depending on the RFC, you may lean more on one side or the other. Usually it leans more on the how would I use this thing, but both are important depending on the specifics. So again, be precise and be concise, but be complete. And code examples are your friend. I would say that especially if you're doing something with syntax, this is the best way to demonstrate what it is you're talking about. You know, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and code examples are a picture. Be aware that this does not use Markdown. We're using a wiki called DocuWiki, which is in PHP. It's kind of old, and it has its own syntax, its own wiki syntax that's not quite Markdown. You get used to it eventually. That's possibly Stockholm Syndrome talking, but there have been efforts to move that to Markdown. There's some technical challenges to that, but there are people who would like to do that eventually. For now, you have to use this wiki format, but there is a nice formatting toolbar to go with it. Once your RFC is done, you talk more, because we talk. Post a new message to the list, put an RFC tag at the beginning of it, and say, hey, here's an RFC, let's talk. You don't need to say anything more than that, and people can reply to that and say, oh, this is great, this is terrible, I like this part, I don't like this part, and so on. Depending on the RFC, there could be weeks worth of feedback or almost none. It varies widely. Keep all the replies in the one response. If you, if you make a major update, you just reply in the same thread. So we want the one thread to have all of the discussion so it's easy to refer to later, which we actually do more often than you'd think. So yeah, keep all the replies in one thread. Expect it to change. Whatever you submitted in the first place is not what is going to be voted on in the end. Go in with that expectation and you'll be fine. Sometimes things change very little. It's nice when that happens, but expect things to change quite a bit. And that's usually good. Most of the RFCs I've worked on have gotten better for the feedback we've gotten. And the changes we've made make them better. In like 95% of cases, I would say that. The RFC should keep a change log. So as you make changes to it, you keep a change log at the bottom. That's included in the templates. But again, that helps inform people of, okay, what changes are you making? And again, assume good faith, offer good faith. If someone comments and they say they don't like something, don't take it personally. They're attacking the work, not the person. And you should also attack the work, not the person. And attack isn't even the right word. Criticize the work, not the person. If someone says, hey, this is a terrible feature, we shouldn't add it, they're talking about the feature, not you. And you should return that favor. Occasionally someone is actually a jerk, but that's surprisingly rare these days in practice. And we have kicked people off the list for that. This stage is open to literally everyone. You do not need to have ever looked at the line of C code to be able to get involved in the discussion and say, I would totally use this. I would never use this. Here's where I would use this in my project. Hey, what if we change this? Then it'd make it a lot easier to use in my project. That kind of feedback is valuable from anyone who uses PHP. So if you use PHP and want to offer feedback based on your experience, please do. Get on the mailing list and offer that feedback. We want to hear it, because otherwise we don't know if something would be useful. If people on the list are like, I don't know who would use this, and 10 people show up and say, I would use this in this project, I'd use it in this project, that's a good sign. Or conversely, this would break my project. We want to hear that early on. Then prepare for voting. You have no change for the RFC for 2 weeks. This is a cool down period to say, make sure everyone's on the same page, no surprise changes. There's been no real discussion for 2 weeks about, and you feel it's done. For some definition of done, it's all kind of squishy, but you feel ready with your proposal. Then you post to the mailing list and say, hi, I'm going to open the vote in a couple of days. This is, again, a heads up to make sure everyone's on the same page. No one gets surprised by anything. It should be at least a 48-hour heads up. So usually I'll say sometime Wednesday or Thursday or something like that, and that's fine. We all have schedules. Then go ahead and open the vote itself. That means going to the bottom of the RFC where there's a voting widget built in the template. You just edit it, set the date for at least 2 weeks in the future. Usually I'll say 2 weeks and a little bit just to make sure there's no time zone concern or anything. Make sure it's got a title, set the closed should actually be false in this case, and save it. And then you get a voting widget that is open to anyone who can vote, who can then vote. And if 2/3 of the voters approve it, then it passes. The 2/3 threshold is high. It is deliberately high because, as we said, these are features that are going to impact millions of developers. We want to make sure of it. Anything that has passed with 2-to-1 in favor of it. So that's a very good threshold to say that we're serious about this. And then post to the list with a new thread, RFC vote, and let's say, hey, it's open. Here's when it's going to end. Here's a link to the previous discussion thread if you want to catch up, and people will vote. Sometimes they'll keep discussing here, but usually they'll just go vote. So we talk about a vote, but who's actually voting? So let's look at some stats. There are about 1,500-ish people who have voting access on PHP. Most of those also have repository access of some form to one or more repositories. In practice, there's only about 100 people who vote in any given year, and most RFCs have about 25 votes. This means that as an author, you really don't know what the voters think unless they are the people who have been discussing, and very often they're not. This is a problem in the current process, I feel. That very often as an RFC author, you get feedback from 5 people on the list, and then 25 people vote on it, 20 of whom you've never heard from. You have no idea why they're voting yes or no. You don't get that kind of feedback, and that is a problem that I feel we do need to address, but be aware of it going in. If you want to become a voter, that process is also kind of squishy. Basically, someone who has voting access decides you've contributed to PHP enough. The PHP project, not the ecosystem. So either patches to PHP SRC or documentation patches. I actually got voting access through doing documentation work. It's very loosey-goosey. Direct democracy has its pros, it has its cons. There is no one steering the ship. It's whoever grabs the wheel is steering the ship. And the pros and cons of that could be their own talk. We'll get to that another time. If the vote doesn't go your way and it doesn't reach that 2/3 threshold, that's okay. Lots of RFCs don't pass. For very good reasons, for not very good reasons, a lot don't pass. Sometimes there's a very clear issue that's some design piece that enough people didn't like, and you know that. You can try resubmitting it again as a fresh RFC that changes that thing. A lot of RFCs went through multiple attempts before they passed. Pipes was version 3. Partial function application was version 2. Asymmetric visibility was version 2. Attributes were version 2 or 3. So sometimes it takes a while, and sometimes just coming back with the same idea a few years later will make a difference because who votes has changed. That's just the way it works right now. If it does pass, however, congratulations, you now have work to do. As we said before, the patch may not be completely done. It may still have some test failures, it may have some bugs to sort out, maybe some performance improvements. So go and finish that process. that could be a week's worth of work. It could be several months worth of work. It varies widely depending on what the patch is. This is one reason I suggest working as part of a team. It makes that easier. But at this point, the concept has already been approved, so it's just the usual pull requests, review, merge process that you're used to on any other Git-based project. And then, wait for November, when you can celebrate the fact that you have now contributed something that is going to be used by millions of developers around the world. And by the way, you have to write documentation for it now too. Go do that. Thank you very much.
That's very good.
What questions you got?
Thank you, Larry. I thought you were the one writing the documentation. I got that wrong, apparently.
I have written some documentation.
Oh, no, not everything.
Yeah, not everything. If someone wants to pay me to write all of it, I'm down for that.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be okay with that. But yeah, at the moment, I mostly do comments cleanup and document the things that I've worked on.
Mm-hmm.
So like the enum documentation was me copying stuff from the enum RFC.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The hooks documentation I wrote, the AVIS documentation I wrote, that kind of stuff. And then other cleanup here and there as it comes up.
Property hooks, by the way, my favorite feature being added in the last 10 years of PHP.
For me, it's enums. And actually, I do want to know your personal favorite, though, because we have been talking about our favorites, but I want to know your personal favorite.
Of mine or of any?
From the last 10 years, from everything that got added to PHP, your personal favorite.
This is going to sound weird. Constructor property promotion.
It's a good answer.
It's a good answer.
I mean, I think it's a good answer.
I mean, I spent years arguing that people should do more dependency injection. And the pushback was always, yeah, it's so hard to do. I've got to write so much boilerplate code to do that. That is no longer the case. You can now do proper dependency injection by sticking one line in in your constructor, have an empty constructor, and you're done.
Yeah.
So there is zero excuse now to not do proper dependency injection.
And I think like everyone is using it. Like every new code I see just comes with that because it's just better than what we had before.
And it's just a syntax desugaring, but its ability to just make certain things so much easier is enormous.
Don't you think
that's some of the best features?
I find it so interesting that things like property promotion, but also property hooks, like the things that don't really add anything conceptually new to the language. I mean, you could do it in other ways before, but they just improve our developer experience
100%.
so much that they are named as the most impactful features. I like that. I'm for that. I think it shows that developers, the target audience of any programming language, that they are very important to take into account.
Yep.
Things get done that are easy. So when you make something easier to do, it will be done more.
Yeah.
And if you make something easier to do, it makes it easier to then build on top of.
Yeah.
That's the pipes operator is stupid simple. It doesn't do much. It doesn't do anything we couldn't do before, except let us reorganize the code a little to make it far easier to read, far easier to reason about. Then you tack in partial function application or some higher order functions, and you get some beautiful code, all because of this little preprocessor macro.
Yeah.
And that to me is some of the best features of any language, where you take some complex problem space and just make it easy so that people can do it more.
Yeah, well, about the pipe operator, I'm also very much looking forward to the follow-up, not necessarily about pipe operator, but partial function application, which is going to make the pipe operator so much easier to use. We were talking about it a little bit yesterday.
They were always intended to come together as a match set. Just the timing didn't work out to get it into 8.5, so it was one of the first things in 8.6.
Yeah.
Now, I do have a follow-up question, and you can answer as well. In the chat can answer as well. So everyone at home, get ready to answer as well. Which is that PHP feature that we don't have, but you would love to see in the future?
I'll let you answer first.
Chat, meanwhile, go all in on the chat. While Larry thinks a little bit, I can answer myself if you want. I would love to see generics, okay? I'm going to just say this. I know there is multiple things to think about, and I know the PHP internals do think about all those things, but as a consumer of PHP, I would love to see generics. How about you?
Me personally, I would love generics.
Okay.
And I think there's a very good argument for including them in the language directly. There's a proposal right now in discussion that I think is the closest we've ever gotten to it. I hope it is successful. We'll see. But I think in a different sense for PHP as a whole, the most important development in recent years is FrankenPHP. Being able to
I
run
have to agree with Larry.
being able to run PHP as a persistent process without rewriting all of our code is phenomenally huge. Just the performance benefits you get from that, the architectural simplicity you get. Like, how much time do frameworks spend right now optimizing their loading, or
100%.
optimizing the autoloader, or compiling stuff to disk and materialize classes? If you're assuming FrankenPHP, all of that goes away. You just have a list you build up in memory and it stays there. And it just makes things so much easier. So from an ecosystem perspective, FrankenPHP and further development along that pathway is the most important thing happening right now.
I want to add a couple more thoughts, if I can,
100%.
because generics. Who needs generics? I mean,
Language designers, we want to use it in core.
and I on framework side and in packages everywhere. No, I want generics as well, but actually, I want something more than generics, and this is going. Yeah, imagine that for me, right? I agree with Larry. For PHP as a language, it's like these syntax changes aren't like as much as it pains me because they impact me, but they aren't. They are not going to make the difference for the outside world. But if I can choose, it's actually interface default methods. To be honest, there was an RFC for it, and it
I would
failed.
love that.
I would love that too.
So what I do now, I've based on some of the blog posts you wrote and some things you shared, I'm just stepping away from abstract classes. I'm done with them. There's barely any extend anymore in my code. It's all interfaces. But the thing I miss is like the default implementation, which I use traits for now, which is not a great solution. Traits have many drawbacks, but it is what it is. For me, it's still better than relying on the classic inheritance tree, which I like to avoid at all costs.
Well,
And that's a talk on its own. But
Fun fact, we are the only major peer language in our family that has an interface and not default methods on it. I looked into this. Pretty much every other language in our sphere has that, so we should too, really. Someone write that RFC.
No, the RFC is written, right?
Someone redo that RFC.
Redo.
There's one that died. I would love to see come back.
Yeah.
Someone could pick that up if they wanted to. Yeah. If someone wants to, reach out. Let's do that, because that would be huge.
100%. Larry, everything. Thank you so much for everything you do for the PHP ecosystem. I appreciate that we have people like you moving the PHP language forward. So thank you so much. Chat, everyone clapping for Larry. Thank you so much for coming today. Take care.